Repair cafes and fix-it clinics give people a chance to try to fix broken household items instead of replacing them. Now a new online tool is designed to help people find community repair events near them. In today's Watching Your Wallet, consumer investigator Cafés Jackman is showing us how one program in D.C. works.
From broken appliances to other household items, D.C. residents brought in things they hope to repair. At this Fix It DC event, they get access to tools, guidance, and a chance to see whether their item can be fixed instead of replaced.
So they bring their stuff, they bring their broken item. We provide the tools, the material, potentially to help you fix that product.
Richard Jackson is director of DC's Department of Energy and Environment. Similar repair events are happening not just in DC, but across the country. They can include repair cafes, fix-it clinics, maker spaces, and other volunteer-led events where neighbors can get help trying to repair items rather than replacing them. And now the U.S. Public Interest Research Group, or PIRG, is promoting a new community repair hub designed to help people locate events in their area.
We currently have, I believe, over 80 different groups that use this tool right now in 21 different states.
The hub, which is on U.S. PIRG's website, lets users look for listed repair events near them. Megan Smith with PIRG also says events like this help reduce electronic waste.
If they end up in a landfill, that can become really hazardous waste too, because electronics are filled with heavy metals that can contaminate the waste stream. Really the way to sort of counteract this cycle of disposability is to start with repair.
How impactful do you think it would be to not only know that other communities are doing it, but there's a place now where people can go and find out that information for themselves?
I think as a whole, the more people get exposed to something like this, the more it's going to grow. And I think that's really the beauty of it, because it's so simple, it's successful.
With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Cafés Jackman.
Our thanks to